Hi, I'm James. Welcome to Homegrown. We've teamed up with the South Dakota Soybean Checkoff to bring you episodes all about the wonderful soybean here in South Dakota. On this first episode, we're going to give you a general overview of planting, harvesting, and all that goes into soybean production and what that soybean does after it leaves the field as well. What's going on right now and why are guys working so hard?
The significance of the timing right now is that we want this little soybean plant to get as much sunlight as it can before it reaches its maturity.
Okay.
And so the earlier we can get it in, as long as the temperatures are good, the better. That plant will thrive, and it's an amazing little plant. Mm-hmm. It actually takes nitrogen out of the air and places it into the soil.
Right.
And it stabilizes it there so that we aren't losing nitrogen, and the next crop can utilize that. And so pretty exciting. We need to have a planter that can singulate, in other words, drop every seed about the same distance apart, and that way it gets the most sunshine, the most water, the most fertility it can possibly get.
You know, those of us that haven't really dug into what this machine does, so what you're saying is as this is rolling through the field at what, 5 to 8 miles an hour, I'm guessing?
Yes.
It's dropping a single seed very precisely, and if I'm correct, at a specific depth as well into that soil.
That is absolutely right. And we need that depth to make sure that that plant can push its way out. Mm-hmm. A soybean is unique in that other seeds you plant and you see the plant come up. When a soybean comes up, it's actually the soybean seed itself that's pushing out of the ground.
Really?
And so we need to make sure we don't get it too deep, but yet deep enough that it can always have moisture.
Mm-hmm. And so, like you said, it's just critical that we can get out in those fields. You know, depending on where we're at in the state, there's some places that are too wet, some places that are too dry.
Yes.
And that's really critical for guys to be able to get out there and actually get these seeds in the ground, because if it's too wet, why can't they do it if it's too wet, I guess?
If it's too wet, a number of problems. You may get stuck, for
right.
one. You can't singulate the plant. The wheels will roll up.
Okay.
It just won't plant efficiently. And the furrow that the seed drops in needs to be able to close properly. And
Okay.
when you're too wet, that may not happen. Or you may close it, and when it gets hot and dry, it will open back up and the seed will die.
When we say a furrow opening, just explain what that is.
Just a little trench, and in the case of soybean, we're 1 1/4 to 1 3/4 inch deep. It's a little V that the planter makes. The seed drops into the bottom of that, and then the planter closes that V and compacts the soil against the seed so it has the best opportunity to get moisture and to grow.
Bean goes in the ground, we push that bean up, all of a sudden, you know, take us from there. What happens to that plant, and what are we doing once we, you know, when we're driving by on the interstate, looks like a green field out there, everything is going well. What are farmers doing at that point? What are they looking at?
We are looking to see what pests might be available, and by pests, I'm talking about weeds, diseases, and there are a number of diseases for soybeans, and also insects.
So they're not just out there wandering around petting their beans. They're checking for pests. They're checking to make sure the right nutrients are being applied at the right time. Can you talk on that just a little bit?
Yes, we know what a plant needs for nutrients.
Right.
And so really we begin the fall before doing soil samples to check what nutrients are available. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to put any more than we absolutely have to. We just want that plant to have what it needs available.
We take soil samples in the fall,
Okay.
and we can do it 2 different ways generally. You can do grids where exactly every 1 acre gets gridded, or every 2.5, whatever the farmer chooses, or maybe even 5, but it's a specific area of every field in a perfect grid. Or you can take and overlay your soil types.
Okay.
And then you can soil test in that one soil type area. And then when the soil type changes to a lighter, sandier type soil, you use soil test that. So then that's precision ag. So then you come in there and you fertilize according to the soil type,
Right.
or what the soil test tells you to.
And so that, you know, could be, again, just because we're driving by and it looks like one field, there's several different soil types and several different things going on in one field. So you're mapping out that field all the different things that are going on. To people driving by on the interstate, it looks just like one big old crop of soybeans out there. But what you're saying is there's all kinds of different things going on, even within that one field.
Right.
And you start last year mapping that out, testing the soil, and then that goes to what you're going to talk about as a prescription for each of those areas. What does that mean?
So then the prescription is written so that you're only fertilizing as much as you need to in that either that grid or that soil type area to what it needs. No more, no less.
Right.
So that you're getting the maximum production for the least amount of fertilizer, which is very expensive, and we don't want to be over fertilizing either. We want just the right amount. And then you can also then, according to the soil types, generally is what that happens, is according to the soil type. If it's a heavier soil, you can have your population heavier. In corn, usually in corn you want a heavier population in your heavier soils, your more productive soils.
Right.
When you come to that high knoll that's sandy, you want to turn your population down because it can't support that high population. And that's another advantage, and our seed cost is very high.
Right. So we've got that. We've got, obviously started well before planting time. We've got the prescriptions for the field. We're rolling out there right now, putting seed down, putting fertilizer down. Pretty soon those crops will be popping up. God willing that we can get them all in the ground. Then let's move into the summertime. Crops are growing, beans are growing. At that point, what are you doing as a producer? Are we just watching these crops grow